feel free to type in the chat if you can just hear. Because I know Keisha's going to keep an eye on the chat. So if you if you can hear the sound okay and you can see the slides, that's great. So this is cool. There's the actual topic, as you can see here, it's called Let's Rap. Now, and of course, a little hint, of course, you probably figured this out already. R.A.P stands for something, and this will sort of reveal itself, shall we say, as we're going through the actual webinar today. But really, my goal, honestly, like everyone, I'm human, believe it or not, like everybody here. So we all have our days, we have our ups and downs, we have our challenges in life, job, a career, job search. Trying to achieve things in life, and we've all managed these things in our own way, or we've all achieved things in our own way. But I just want to share today. It basically my goal is to share three things, or three messages, shall we say, that of course relate to the RAP that you see here in front of you as we go through. And those messages hopefully can, it might even cause you to think a little bit, or maybe review or reset. Or you may say to yourself, "Oh, I know that stuff. I know what Marcello's talking about. I do this all the time," and that's great. So sometimes it's good to revisit what we're doing. Let's put it that way. I'm going to share a story of one of the things that I was able to achieve in my life, and I'm hoping that by telling that story, that it kind of relates to you, your life, your job search, your current position, whatever it might be, and in some way can help you. So that's my goal, right? So let's go through. So again, let's wrap. 3 tips to personal and professional success. As Keisha mentioned, my name is Marcello Scarcella, employment consultant, online facilitator with ACCES, of course. Been with ACCES for actually 13 years this year, and I'm part of what's called the Speed Mentoring program here at ACCES. So, all right. So I'm just going to go to the next slide a little bit, and just now, couple comments about this. I don't know if anyone here knows, or I'm sure a lot of you may know or have heard of the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. And I'm going to tell a story around this shortly. I want to share a little bit of the background on this. There's a picture here, and by the way, just as a side note, it's interesting how I'm doing this because I didn't foresee the movie coming out, the current Elvis movie, which is doing so well all around the world. I don't know if there are any Elvis fans in the group, but even if you're not, you hopefully will appreciate some of the thoughts I'm going to share with you. So, question, first of all, has anybody ever heard of this guy? So this, Elvis, that's the first thing. Do you even like his music? So I'm just sort of asking that question. And of course, he's recognized as one of the greatest performers that ever lived. And that's not just me saying this, has been overall feedback over the years. So I'm going to tell you a little story around that. And yes, I am all shook up, by the way. The question is, are you all shook up? Whether it's music, or whether it's performance, or whether it's your job, or whether it's achieving that next goal for yourself. So let's wrap. Let's wrap. In other words, let's have a little talk here and see if there's some things that can help a little bit. Now, by the way, just in case you're wondering, I'm going to just reveal this now. In case you're wondering, you won't believe it at first but this picture here on the slide. One of the many things that I had done in my life is I actually have been a professional Elvis impersonator or Elvis tribute artist. I did that for probably about 16, 17 years in my life. So this is me, of course, much younger age. If you just see me now today with my highlights and all that stuff, but so that's just a picture of me actually doing this. So there's a story behind how I actually got to do this. In other words, perform as the king of rock and roll. That's one of the many things I've achieved in my life. So hopefully this helps you and maybe you find a little entertaining. So here we go. Stay tuned. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to start off the story by really talk about a vision, and I don't know, to me, and please, I'm hoping as this goes through, if you have any thoughts or even comments, or if you even agree with some things I'm saying, or you, whatever, if it hits you, connects with you, we'd love to hear that as well. But you can always do it in the chat or in the Q&A. But having a vision is very important. In other words, it's something that if you basically, I found in life, if you paint a picture in your mind, this sounds kind of deep, but when you think about this, it's like creating a picture in your mind of what you want to achieve. It's funny how we work. Now, I couldn't even get into science of this because I'm not claiming to be an expert in this field. However, it's interesting how you tend to put yourself in that position to achieve that goal or whatever that might be. And I'm gonna share a phrase. I've got some quotes I'm going to share with you as we progress through the presentation. One of some of my favorite quotes, but I'm a big quote guy. So one of the ones that I came to me many years ago, was this one. Six very important words. Ready? We become what we think about. Okay, we become what we think about. That's six powerful words. I'm going to say that again. We become what we think about. If you think about having a, oh, it's going to be a bad day today. Everybody probably can relate to this, but it's going to be a bad day. It's going to be a tough day. There's a pretty good chance you're going to have a tough day because that's how your mindset is it's already there. You're already in that kind of that hole or negative hole, you want to call it that. But if you're saying to yourself, and there's a lot of power in this, but of course you got to believe it as well. Because today's going to be a great day. Yeah, I'm up. I'm ready to go. I feel good today. The sun is out. Whatever it might be. Saying that, then that increases your probability of having a good day because you're telling yourself that. But we become what we think about. So I thought a lot. This relates to a lot of what from my story. So basically, I'm going to start going back now in the story, and then we can sort of go through. Many years ago, I had a picture in my mind, literally, and as you see here, of educating and entertaining. Now, it's interesting in life. I had this vision way back when I was 13, 14 years old. Don't ask me why, but I did. So I had this. I just always saw myself, working with groups of people, whether it was educating, teaching, instructing, speaking, which I'm still doing today, and also entertaining people because I was, I studied music when I was very young, studied the accordion, from Italian background, my parents were Italian. So the big thing was learning the accordion, especially when you're very young. And then I grew to learn some other instruments, guitar, and I started singing a little bit in the band and things like that. But music, and I took music in high school. I was very involved in music and conducting and performing and all that. So it's been a big part of my life, and it's always been there at different levels in life, but it's always been there. But but I had this picture when I was very young. And it's interesting because I used to tell my mother, hey, mom, you know what? I don't know. I just want to tell you that I don't know. I keep seeing this picture in my mind. I see myself someday, being on a stage or a platform or something, and just talking or speaking or instructing or even, and I was also performing too. I just constantly see myself doing that. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but mom, I see that, and she'd say, hey, Marcello, that's a very nice, in her Italian accent. Hey, Marcello, that's a very nice. You good for you that you do the you have that picture. That's a nice. It's a nice. Anyway, listen, can you go to the vacuum and vacuum the carpet? And then when you're done that, can you take out the garbage? So in other words, it was basically, hey, that's good. Now you got to get back to doing the stuff, and that was cool. But this came up every so often, and I would say this to mom and my father as well, and say, hey, that's my father would look at me with a smile, say, that sounds good. You never know, don't give up. And he would say that. That's interesting. So, but the power of that picture, stayed with me, when I was going through school and, high school and college and so on. And as I was beginning my career, that whole picture stayed with me. Now, I'm going to go fast forward basically my life. So, of course, I built my career and of course I was going through life, and sometimes things happen in life, right? So now we're talking about the early 90s when this happened. Okay, 1990s. So I'm going back a little bit, but I was working with a large organization. I was in a senior management position, but what can happen, and that's happened, but at this particular time, I had a very young family at that point, and the company decided to package me, in other words, or re-engineer. They're re-engineering, restructuring, and because of seniority and so on, I had to go. Now they were very nice with me. They gave me a beautiful reference, and they a nice package and all that stuff. But the fact is, I had a young family, and it's like, wow, what do I do? What do you do now? I was kind of at a loss, actually. Now I was building a few things and researching a few things at that time, that related to perhaps potentially getting into training, possibly, and other things. But anyway, it was one day. It was just one morning. I got up and I said, I've got to make a choice here. I got to choose. And you notice here on the slide, I say the impact of choices. I think we all agree that if we, the impact of whatever choice we can make can be very positive, can be very negative. Sometimes you got to take a chance and step out of your comfort zone. Or if you have that fear, And I did that. I just got to the point where, this just happened. As I just said, I get restructured and re-engineered, have a young family. What's next? What do I do? But you've got to have the mindset. And for me, that picture that I'd mentioned to you at the beginning here, it never did change really. Like, it was always there. It kind of came in and out. I would always think about it. So, so basic one morning, and of course back then that we had, dial phones or the touch-tone phone. So that tells you how far back we're going here. But still, I was listening to a radio station a lot at that time. They played a lot of rock and roll, oldies type music, 50s, 60s music kind of thing. And I listened to it all the time. And they always had different contests. So guess what? I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to dial through and see if I even get through to begin with. I did. It was just right on the first ring, and you can call it what they call divine intervention, or it was meant to be, or whatever it is. But I got through. And the contest, to give you a long story short, but the contest was that in a certain week, it was a week time frame, every day people, if they got through, would call in, and they were required to sing a certain song made famous by Elvis. And that song was called All Shook Up, hence why I mentioned All Shook Up at the beginning. That song kind of got me going, started with the whole Elvis impersonation thing. So, and they had to sing it, and the background music was played through the radio. So if you're a listener, you would hear background music, or like they call it, the track, or the background, like almost like a karaoke type soundtrack. And you, as the person on the phone, would have to try to sing to match that background. So like doing karaoke over the phone, kind of, in a sense. So, and that's hard to do to begin with. Pardon me. So I got through, and I gave it a shot. I wasn't sure how it was coming out through the radio, but I just kind of followed my instinct, and because I used to goof around, and this is where I used to have fun with the Elvis voice, other things too in my life and my career and so on. So kind of play with it a little bit. So I just gave it my best shot. I figure, hey, you know what? Sometimes you got to take a chance. Sound familiar? Okay. Step out of your comfort zone. You got to take a chance. This applies to our lives. It applies to our career. So just keep thinking about that. Yeah, sometimes you just got to make a choice to take a chance. So I did. Anyway, saying it. Long story short, at the end of the week, they had a vote. I guess people had to call in to vote who had the best version of the song, or who sounded the best, or whatever. Somehow I won. I didn't, of course, analyze. They picked me. They contacted me, and there was a prize there. There, nice fancy dinner for two with my wife and myself at the Sky Dome. By the way, Sky Dome back then, okay? Today it's called Scotiabank Arena, but back then it was called Sky Dome. So the prize was, hey, having a nice fancy dinner, having a room for one night. That was a prize. I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. And they said, oh, by the way, we also would like you to sing All Shook Up as Elvis Presley at our show that we're going to be hosting in 4 weeks. Now, they produced and hosted a big show that was held at the Sky Dome / Scotiabank Arena. And the show featured a lot of the stars or popular artists from the 50s and 60s that actually came to appear there, believe it or not. That was kind of cool. I don't know if you might recognize some of them, but I don't know if you ever heard of the Monkees or Peter Noonan, Herman's Hermits, or, there are a bunch of people, I know I'm going way back now, but anyway, in this concert. So the requirement, part of the prize was to sing that song as part of the concert. Wow, what opportunity. So of course, irregardless, it was part of it. So I had to make a decision and go for it. So it's interesting how what can happen sometimes by taking a chance and sort of making that choice, right? So, and it's also interesting in life too that, as you prepare, or if you have that vision in your mind, or have that picture, it's interesting how if you prepare in life, and this could be with interviews and, with your job search or careers or whatever it might be, if you prepare enough and you're psychologically ready, then that's when success happens. Like, it's there at the bottom of the slide that I've got here. Success happens when preparation meets opportunity. That's a quote that came out. Oprah has said it. Many other people have quoted that in different versions, but basically success can happen, or does happen, when preparation meets opportunity. If you're prepared, you've done research, you've done, you've practiced or whatever it might be, whether it's again going for a job interview or in your career or whatever, maybe if you're a performer, you've done the practice, you've done the preparation. Then when the opportunity comes, at least you're ready to go. Well, I was more ready than what I thought because I was, again, like I said to you, I had my musical background. I was kind of playing with the voice a little bit, but that not really any intention per se. But you never know, would be part of that picture that I had. So here we are. Okay. So now here's the thing. So what I do next? In case you're wondering, what did I do next? Okay. So now we're going to get into the whole rap thing. Okay, the R.A.P. All right. So I had basically 4 weeks to prepare. And to really, do it. I figured here's my self-talk. I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to give it the best shot. I'm going to just go for it. I mean, you only live once, basically. And I said, well, I'm afraid. I've got the fear factor in there. I don't know what's going to happen. I've never actually performed using. I didn't have the intention to get a whole suit and everything. But guess what? I made that decision. Of course, I had the support of my wonderful wife, which helps too, as well. So again, it's important to take a risk. In life, it's important to take that chance, step out of your comfort zone. We all know this deep down, but it's not always easy to do so. But you owe it to yourself to basically make that decision. It's about making a decision and making that choice to say, you know what. It's been hard. I've had some downtime the last little while. I haven't quite been myself, or I've gone through a bit of a dip, shall we say. We all go through it, and especially now with the last pandemic and everything, we all go, have had to adjust in different ways, emotionally and physically and otherwise. However, we owe it to ourselves to make that decision, to take that chance, get out of that comfort zone, and literally see yourself stepping out of it. Okay, now that's a visual, another visual. If you can actually see yourself making that move, it's interesting how that vision, if it's really clear, 9 times out of 10, you got to find a way to actually get there. And that's what I have found. Okay, and just to sort of continue on that vein. So I've already revealed the R in RAP, which is research. So there you go. It's probably not a surprise to a lot of you, but think about that for a second. Research is important in many aspects. Again, we go back to researching when it comes to applying for a job, or researching the company, organization, the values, and so on, to help you prepare for interviews, for example. Or maybe you're researching for a project. You're researching where you're going to travel. I mean, research is a big part of our lives in many different ways, right? So, question: how did I do this? How did I prepare for the Elvis performance? Okay, so, and again, think about this. What I'm hoping you're doing as we're going through this webinar is that you're relating a lot of things I'm talking about to your own life, to your own, whether it's professional, personal, your current job, your career, you wanting to take a next step. So, because it all applies to every part of our lives. Okay, the whole RAP concept. The first part is research. Okay. So I had to prepare. So in this case, again, let's be clear. I was going to be performing as the king of rock and roll for the first time, literally as the king, or as Elvis, because they basically gave me the guidelines. Okay, we'd like you to, dress up and really be the king. Really sing that song, all shook up. So they sent me the karaoke track. These days, the karaoke's on, a system. DJs have it all the time. It's just a bunch of stuff on YouTube. Back then, it was a cassette tape. Don't laugh. It was a cassette tape. Ha ha. So they sent the karaoke soundtrack, and then I would practice to that at home. All shook up. I don't know if a lot of you know the song, but I promised myself I wouldn't sing a couple bars. But what the heck? It's Wednesday. Hopefully, Keisha won't mind. Oh, well, bless my soul, what's wrong with me? I'm at you like a man on a fuzzy tree. My friends say I'm out in the water's a bug. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. That was the first part. That's my raw part of the all shook up. But anyway, yeah. So it's a cool song. So what I do? Well, I had to figure. Well, how does Elvis actually perform? Now, I would watch his movies sometimes and this and that, and I saw, he did huge concerts that were, went worldwide by satellite in 1973. Give an example: Elvis Aloha from Hawaii. That's one of his most famous concerts. But I watch a lot of his videos. I watch videos. Yeah, videos. I know. Watch a lot of videos. And I watch his style. His performance. I really wanted to get a sense of, okay, how does he move? What's his character? What's his personality on stage? What are the subtle moves? This is like some of the stuff that the actor that's playing Elvis now in the current movie that it had to go through, just to give an example. But so that's part of the preparation. Studies Elvis' performance style, his body language, vocal style. There's a lot of body language, subtle, a look or a subtle point to the drummer or whatever it is. There was a lot of communication always going on. He was known for that. So I wanted to kind of try to emulate that a little bit. So I did that. He was known to be, he had a lot of charisma and a very sort of engaging approach with his orchestra and the audience, on stage, of course. So I watched a lot of that, and you probably hear this a lot. People have said that, for example, I've talked to many clients, and then I actually suggested, still do to this day. There's so many things available out there. Practice in front of a mirror. Now, that sounds very old, but believe it or not, it works. It actually helps quite a bit. Just watching yourself, whether it's how you stand or how you carry yourself, or perhaps even answering an interview question or whatever it might be, or maybe if you're giving a presentation, practice in front of a mirror. There's a lot of power to that because you're seeing yourself, you're seeing all that. Now, of course, you can record yourself too, of course, and there's many different things you can do. But in the story, that's the kind of preparation I did. I would play the background track. I would try to practice the moves and this and that. So, question: how does this apply to personal professional success? Stay tuned. In other words, there's many things here I'm going to talk about, but let's look at it so far. Okay, how does all this stuff that I've been saying? How does any of that apply to personal professional success? Well, remember, I was talking about painting a picture in your mind of what you want to achieve. Maybe you're currently in a job that's doing you enjoy, doing very well, but you want to try to make a move at some point. So try to visualize that, like it's for a different type of role. Can you see yourself performing that particular role actually in your mind? We talked about that at the beginning. Remember, we become what we think about. Think about that. Remember, we become what we think about. There's power in that. So again, does that apply in a personal professional life? It sure does, right? It could be, again, planning is coming up as well, but it could be perhaps looking up an organization or researching how certain things are done, whether it's in your, even something as practical as something in your home. We all know the importance of research. So this applies to every part of our lives because we always got to get some kind of information that's going to help us. So we all know that. Okay, so another big part. So we talked about the R in R.A.P, which is research, of course. The huge part of R.A.P is the A. So I'm revealing the second letter. So attitude. Well, we all know about attitude, right? And I don't want to assume, I don't want to minimize the importance of attitude. Well, what I'd like to draw your attention to first of all, is the word attitude right here. So you see on the screen, and someone shared this with me in one of the workshops I've been instructed way back, and I've never forgotten it. And I still use it to this day. And this I'm not a mathematician, but mathematically, you could prove that attitude literally is 100% of everything. It's the basis, it's the foundation, it's the template of everything out there. Think about that. So if you actually look at the English language, the English alphabet, this is, in case you're wondering, maybe some of you have already done this. And if you look at each letter, so you look at the A in attitude, it's the first letter. So so you give it a value of 1. It's the first letter. Then if you go to the T and the other T in attitude and so on, they land at a certain spot in the alphabet. T, for example, if I remember correctly, is 20. And the other T, again, that's 20. Then you've got I, and then you've got T. So in other words, I'll leave it to you to figure out where each letter lands in the alphabet and what number, like where, along the way. Okay, so A, B, C, D. So D, for example, is 4. E is 5. So I'll let you figure that out, and I can guarantee you, once if you do it correctly, it'll equal 100. I'm telling you, and I will confirm this, and I will say this right on this webinar. Okay, so I challenge you to give that a try. Well, I think we all know deep down, attitude is the foundation of everything. When you see a lot of books out there and in articles about, hey, what are 3 things that are really important if you're going to, for example, hire someone for a job, or if you're applying for a job? Like what is no matter what is going on even now through the pandemic and the transition that's happening now, there's some basic things that employers do look for. Okay, check this out. Now, if we look at three things, attitude, skills, and knowledge. Well, what is most important out of those three? Now we get different answers. Some people say, oh, it's knowledge. You got to have the knowledge. Okay, well, it's true. Well, I got knowledge, skills. Come on, I got the skills. And plus the experience that's built into that. Well, yeah, that's important, of course. What about attitude? I mean, so let's break that down. Attitude, the mindset, how you think, what you tell yourself, how you carry yourself, your body language, your nonverbal communication. This is all part of attitude. Your perspective on life, your perspective on a business or the company, your perspective on each and every single day, perspective on how you deal with projects, perspective on how you approach interviews. I mean, we could go on. There's so many parts of this. Would you agree? I mean, and I'm not sure if anybody is making comments if they agree or this stuff. I'm hoping that you can relate to some of this or at least connects with you. That's my goal. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things. So again, if you look at the slide there, I've got mindset. That's I just mentioned that. So again, if we go back to my Elvis story, if I didn't have the positive mindset or the mindset that said, hey, you know what? Even though I'm afraid and things just happened with the job and I've got a young family and all those things happening, if I didn't have the mindset that said, you know what, I need to take a chance here because I'm still at a young stage in my life, even though I've got a young family and so on. I have a very supportive wife, supportive family, but I've got to make a choice here. And so if I didn't have that mindset, none of this would have happened. If I didn't take the chance or take the risk or step out of that comfort zone, I keep going back to that, the whole Elvis impersonation experience that went for about 16, 17 years would not have happened. And that was, with everything else I've done in my life, that was a big part of my life right there. So mindset, I think we all agree is important. Self-talk, do you have 3 hours? We could talk about self-talk. What are you telling yourself every single day? And again, this might sound, pie in the sky, shall we say, but it's not. There is, I'm going to quote some books, by the way. Some of these books are old, some are current. I'm just going to share the title very quickly, and if you're curious, feel free to read them. There is a book called The Psychology of Achievement. Psychology of Achievement by a gentleman named Brian Tracy, Brin Tracey. Brian Tracy. You can Google this and all this stuff. It's one of his first books that he wrote, actually. So many years ago. He's still around today. He's touring. He's a great speaker. He's in demand, and he really has mastered the whole formula or templates or things that work that help people be successful. Okay, so it's a psychology of achievement. And he talks a lot about what you tell yourself. And then one of those basic ones, now don't laugh, okay? You might laugh at this, but if you look in the mirror and actually start every day and tell yourself things like, I like myself. I like myself. And he would say this, he would talk about this. You might think I'm crazy too, I don't know. But I like myself. I'm a winner. I like myself. I'm a winner. I'm going to do well today in my interview. Now, if not just once, but if you start doing this every single day, it becomes what they call a habit. And a habit, no matter what time of zone we're talking about or what year we're talking about, a habit has been proven. If you do something each day for minimum 21 days, it becomes a habit because it becomes part of you. So a lot of you probably know that deep down, but I just want to share that. So self-talk, very impactful. Okay. And that's what got me through when I did the whole Elvis thing. Marcel, you can do this. While I was practicing in the mirror, I said, oh, hey, Marcel, okay, you can do this. And I kept seeing myself, remember about the picture in my mind? I kept seeing myself on stage performing that particular song, All Shook Up. I saw myself do that. Technically, I saw myself doing that many years prior, as I told you at the beginning, not dressed up as Elvis, but I saw myself doing it as me. Interesting. I think, anyway, I don't know what you think. Energy. Well, I mean, energy is, where did energy come from? Well, that's a big part of its mindset. But besides the fact that, of course, we all know the basics about rest and how you feel, and if something excites you, or you really feel happy and energized about your next move or what's going on in your current life. But energy encompasses many things. But that the energy for what you want to achieve, it has to come across some way. Everybody shows it differently. Some people, smile. Some people use hands and energy, physical, like me, for example. You see me on the webinar here, but it's a mindset. A lot of it's a mindset, and yet you got to make that decision too. Besides all the other physical things that are important, focus. It's all about focus. We all know this. To succeed at anything in life, you've got to have focus. So again, I go back to my Elvis story example, okay, where I had to be focused. I had to make sure, okay, I stay with that. You got to practice. I practiced every day, practice that song, and again, we all know the importance and the power of focus. Self-image. How do you see yourself in the mirror? When you look in the mirror, what do you see? What do you see? Are you happy with what you see? Or are you doing the Brian Tracy thing saying, yeah, I like myself. I like myself. Yeah, yeah. I feel good about how I look. I feel good about how I feel. I feel good about how I brand myself, especially these days. Okay. How do you present yourself virtually, of course, like today, for example, online or in person, or if you're doing more people doing in-person things these days. There's a lot of power in how you see yourself. That perspective, that perception of yourself can drive you to success, or it can drive you to failure, or affect the road to either one. Okay, and of course, then there's fear. I mean, fear is something that we all experience. We're all human. I still experience it. I mean, believe it or not, there's that little bit of fear, a little bit of nervousness that happens, because especially if you're concerned about doing a great job or doing a wonderful job at something. Okay. Fear can mean different things. The one that people tend to relate to a lot of times is, if you look at the letters of fear, future events appear real. Future events appear real. In other words, there's a what if game that we can play with our head sometimes. Oh my, what if, like today, if I woke up and I said, oh, but what if I don't do well with this webinar? Oh my goodness, well, what if I forget what I want to say? Or what if nobody shows up? What if the sound doesn't work? What if? And that kind of game can take us down a downward negative spiral. So we got to be, but again, that's a decision that we have to make. If you're confident, or you're working towards building your confidence, whatever you're doing, if you're doing a presentation, for example, quick tip, okay, just to give an example, okay, if you're clear on the messages that you want to communicate, maybe it's three key messages. Like today, I'll be honest with you, today, what's helping me is because when I created all this, I want to make sure I got the three messages across, R.A.P. We've got the R, we have the A, I'm getting to the P. And when you see the P, you'll go, oh yeah, of course. I'm sure you will. And that's great. I hope you do. Okay. And once you know what those are, you'll find a way to gravitate towards making sure that those messages are communicated. It's funny how that works. Just to give you an example. So that's what I just want to share that with you. So, and that can help diminish fear, because you feel clear and confident about what you want to say, what you want to get out there, whatever it might be, and anything that we're doing. Okay, so a little bit of fear, a little bit of nervousness is natural, especially if you care. I still experience that too. However, but that gets minimized because you are confident in what you want to say or how you want to present yourself. Perhaps it's for interview question. Maybe you've already prepared. Yeah, I feel good about this job, but I've already practiced possible interview questions and possible responses. Hey, that's great. Wonderful. So by you doing that, then that ideally should lessen the amount of nervousness / fear that you feel because you've done that. So just want to share that with you. So, okay, so we've done R, we've done A, and guess what? The next one is, okay, there it is. Okay, plan. There it is. Surprise, surprise, right? Plan. We talked about research, the importance of research. We all agree with that so far. A, the importance of attitude, the mindset, the whole template. Remember, attitude is 100% of everything. Everything. It's been proven, by the way. I mentioned about the employers. It's been proven. Stats, information, trends out there that, you know what? Knowledge, okay, knowledge can be learned, they can take training and so on. Skills are there, but skills can be developed, can be sharpened. You can add skills to your profile. That's great. But you can't teach attitude. How do you teach attitude? You either have the right mindset or the right attitude template, or you don't. You can't teach it. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So that's the foundation of everything. Plan. Well, with that, I think we all agree, with everything in life, planning is very important. And so again, I talked about focus earlier. So again, if I go back to my Elvis story about getting ready for the concert and the performance and so on. By the way, as I go through this, look at the key words: preparation. And when I told you about preparation, how was I doing that? Well, I practiced. Remember I said to you, I got the background karaoke track, cassette, cassette. I know. I practiced the song. Yeah, over and over and over until really it became part of me, and I could feel it, and it was just part of who I was. Okay, and another big part of of planning and being successful is taking steps versus trying to conquer mountains. In other words, if you're, let's face it, if you're looking at a flight of stairs, let's say it's a long flight of stairs, how do you plan to get to the top? Well, you can't leap unless you're Spider-Man or Superman or whoever, or Wonder Woman or whatever the case may be, right? But you can, how do you do it? One step at a time. You can eat a whole pizza. What you can do, one slice at a time. I mean, we all know this deep down. So it's taking steps along the way. You have your big picture. You've got your big picture. That's important. Like, and I use myself as an example. I've had other pictures too, by the way, but that's for another webinar sometime. But I'm focusing now on the Elvis picture, or the entertainment and education picture. Remember I said at the beginning, I always had that in my mind. And I've taken steps, sometimes without even realizing I was doing that along the way in my career, to build sort of confidence and skills in the areas of educating and training and performing as well. But sometimes you do this without even realize you're doing it, because you've got that big picture in your mind. But I found myself and moved, got along the way, and until I was able to take that opportunity. And of course, then you've got SMART goals. Well, we all know about SMART goals. What does SMART stand for? I'm sure a lot of people know, the formula for SMART. S stands for specific. Goal, for a goal to be achieved, it's got to be specific. M is for measure. Can you measure the goal? A, is it attainable? It's achievable. R, is there a result or an expected result in the goal when you set up your goal? And is there like sort of a time frame? Okay. Something very, very basic would be, for example, my goal is to lose 20 pounds by the end of October. You're looking at this year, 20 pounds by the end of October. Let's pretend. Okay. So, I mean, is that achievable? Okay. If I said, well, I'm going to lose 20 pounds by the end of October by cutting out my snacks in the evening, by increasing my exercise activity from maybe 1 day a week, 2 days a week to 5 days a week, by riding my bicycle more often, by walking, 1 hour each day, at least 5 days a week, by streamlining my food consumption, by eating in moderation, by getting better rest, and I could go on. So I'm just giving some specifics on how I want to achieve that. So did I have a time frame in there? Sure. Did it give you the result? How I'm going to work towards it? For sure. Is it attainable? It is attainable by following what I just described. And is it specific? I'd like to think it's that specific. So that's just an example of a SMART goal, okay, which you can always apply in our current life, or professional life, personal life. Okay. So having said all that, then that's like, okay, so go back to my Elvis story now. Okay, so here I am, I'm pretty ready to go. The time came, bottom line, time came there. So I'm just watching our time here. I just realized it's 11:43, so I don't want to be conscious of our time. I value your time too. Thanks for listening so far and being here. So time came, the night came. My wife and I went to Skydome / Scotiabank Arena. We went backstage. They got us all set up and all that stuff. Time came for me to perform. So they called me up on stage. And oh, by the way, what I did through all this, part of my preparation, is I rented an Elvis suit for the first time. And my hair was already dark at that time. It's not now, of course, but back then it was dark. And I actually painted with eyeliner. Don't laugh. My wife's eyeliner. I created sideburns. And I bought glasses to create what they call the Las Vegas look. You can look that up if you're curious, of Elvis. And I just did the whole thing. I had the costume, I practiced, I was ready to go. The opportunity was there, I went for it. They introduced me, and the background music came on, and I just went for it. And I sang the song. So it's interesting. And now here's the thing. I did the song, I couldn't see the audience because there are lights everywhere. So I was just focused. I was very focused, keyword focused, on doing that particular song. Wow. Okay. By the way, side note, I found out after the performance that there were 17,000 people in the audience by the people that ran the show. So that was like, wow, 17,000 people. That's amazing. That never happened. So now they also introduced me, or interviewed me, sorry, on stage as well afterwards. And the host was asking me questions and said, so Marcello, that was a great Elvis performance, but what do you do in your normal life? Well, now it's interesting. One of the things I didn't talk about here, if anyone's ever curious, you can always look me up on LinkedIn. Feel free to do that, by the way. I don't mind. Marcello Scarcella. You can always look me up on LinkedIn if you wish. And but at that time, I was just sort of toying with the idea of doing some training and some, because I enjoyed the idea of training, instructing, and educating. Remember, that was a big part of part of my big picture from way back. So I'm giving sort of the fast, future fast version of this, but basically, so I was already investigating some of that, and I was doing a little bit of research in there, and I said, oh yeah, I'm a customer service specialist. I just did that, a CSS, customer service specialist. That's how I branded myself. It just sort of came on top of my head, and oh, that's great. Well, wow, you're an Elvis guy and a customer service specialist. That's fantastic. After the performance, again, the CEO of the Skydome, Richard Petty, back then, okay, came down, found me backstage. He handed me his card. He said, hey, Martel, that was a great performance. You said you're a customer service specialist. Is that right? I said, yes. And he said, okay, I'd like you to make contact with our senior vice president of customer service at the Skydome and to work together to design a series of specific workshops that relate to improving customer service attitude. So can you do that? I said, absolutely, I will do it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Now, I'll be honest with you, I hadn't done anything like that, but I branded myself at that moment. And guess what I had to do? I had to start doing some, guess what? The R and R.A.P research. I researched, talked to a lot of different people. My father-in-law back then was actually my mentor as well, because he had his own training company. So we talked a lot about that. And I got some great advice. And long story short, I connected with the senior vice president and came in and did a series of presentations. And that combined a little bit of the education and the entertainment, because it came in dressed as Elvis. I did some of that too. So imagine that, conveying a message through a little bit of entertainment, but actually talking about, as I am now, for example, about the importance of having the right service attitude. And that's how things started spun from that, as far as I got hired as Elvis. And then things went from there, where I was also beginning to build some more training experience, and I was doing some specialized instruction as well for Humber College. So there's another part of my life that things sort of spun from that, some amazing opportunities. If anyone's curious, I can always share that. Maybe who knows, maybe another webinar, we'll see. But so that's a story. That's a story. So it's interesting how, again, research, attitude, plan. Does it apply to everyone here? Absolutely. Think about that. Research, yep. Attitude, well, we talked about that. And planning, for sure. Let me just go down to the next slide. What we got here? Okay. So I'm hoping that some of this, connected with you a little. And by the way, this spawned me to do one of my other goals that I did quickly, or I'll tell you very quickly. In 1998, I applied the same type of focus, same type of mindset, same type of visualization, because the picture in your mind is very important. I picture myself singing the national anthems, the American and the Canadian national anthems, at some sporting event at the Skydome. And guess what? I pursued that. I networked, I found the right contact. I practiced, I kept following up. And guess what? I was brought in to do the opening baseball game in that season, 1998, with the Blue Jays. And I can't remember who else was playing, but I sang the national anthems in front of 28,000 people. So that happened too. How did that happen? Research, attitude, plan, mindset, stepping out of your comfort zone, being focused. That's just another example of what happened. So I'm not going like this, by the way. I want to share some of this with you, because these things are possible, but you've got to have, it's making a choice, making a decision, okay? Some quotes I'm just going to mention here very, very briefly. You're proud of every step you take. If you're taking one little step towards whatever your goal might be proud of that. Don't go, oh man, I only contacted one person on LinkedIn today. My goal is to, contact 25. Well, that's not, first of all, that's not a smart goal. You want to maybe bring it down, contacting maybe 5 is your goal for the week or for the day or whatever it might be. So don't take on the mountains. Remember, it's steps, right? Look at the second one. You decide your vibe. That's kind of a cool word. What does vibe mean? It's like your energy. It's like your aura. Okay. You choose it, really. You choose to, as I said before, when I mentioned about we become what we think about. You choose that vibe, whether it's positive or negative, that energy that you exude or that you convey. Deep down, you're choosing it. I know things happen. I'm not being, I'm not trying to minimize anything here. Does life happen? Yes. Do things happen in life? Yes. Are there challenges? Yes. And we've all experienced that, and that can take you back. However, this is, again, it's a practice. It's like, okay, you know what? I have to make that decision, right? Visualize to realize. So again, this ties into I'll give you an example of how I know it's helped me. So you can visualize something. The more you picture that in your mind, the more often you do that, then it will come to a realization, or there's a good chance it will, because you already have that mindset, right? Small changes can lead to a big change. And again, right? So make that small change can lead to a big change. Absolutely. Again, as mentioned before, we become what we think about. That's a huge part of being successful. Okay, so it's having that image, So if I were to lead with anything at all, and I'm just going to make sure okay. So how does the R.A.P formula apply to our personal professional success? Well, let's go back. Okay, R for research. We all know how important that is. I told you my story about the whole Elvis and how that happened and doing the impersonation. How important was research? Absolutely. Again, right? How important was attitude? Well, we talked about that. Again, the attitude is 100% of everything. Mathematically, we proved that, but also it is if we really start thinking about it. Okay, that is the foundation that helps you be successful. We all know that. P, planning. We all know that's important as well. So does it apply to your personal life? Absolutely. Does it apply to your professional life? Absolutely. Key is you've got to make that kind of decision. You've got to make a choice. Every day we can make a choice to either be positive or to take one step towards your goal, or hey, maybe it's making a choice to exercise more or to enjoy life more. Hey, that's a big part of being successful these days too as well. What are you doing just for yourself to enjoy life more? Maybe to rest, to relax, maybe to try a different sport, maybe learn an instrument. Like, what are you doing to kind of help you as well as an individual? Because the more you do for yourself, then the better prepared you are and the more success you'll have, whether it's in your personal life or professional life, because you are actually recharging yourself. You're actually developing yourself, and that's really important. Okay. So as the king would have said, many, and if you ever see the Elvis movie now, you'll probably hear this famous line, thank you very much. And he was known to say it like that, basically. So I don't have any questions. I hope some of this maybe is connected a little bit, or maybe made you feel a little better, hopefully. Meet again, we can tell some of the parts of the story, or like hear some of your stories. But other than that, I thank you for your time today, for connecting with us. Keisha, I'm going to throw back to you if there's any questions or anything we can do here. Thanks everybody so much. I really appreciate it. It's great to meet you.
Marcello. Does anybody have any questions for Marcello before we end the session? I see here Dominic had replied, employers are looking for attitude, knowledge, and question mark.
Oh, probably I missed that. Okay. Sorry. What was the name again? Sorry, I missed the Dominic?
Dominic, yeah.
Dominic. Hey, Dominic, I don't know if you're still there. How you doing? By the way, thanks for the question. Yeah, I was talking about attitude, skills, and knowledge. I think that's what when you had the question mark. Yeah, attitude, skills, and knowledge. And I was saying, hey, knowledge is important. We all know that. And we can always learn through training and so on to gain more knowledge, take courses and so on. So that's always important, of course. And I talked about skills, the fact that you've got skills. Hey, you know what? That's important. Can we add to our skills? Sure, we can. We can sharpen our skills. Absolutely. That's always important with employers, but it's still been proven that even with all that, because attitude is something that you really can't teach, and attitude is really the foundation of everything. And this is based on feedback. Even a lot of employers that we work with many times, and we talk about any events that we do and so on. And this comes up quite a bit. It's like, well, yeah, in the end, that person's got to be likable. They have to have the right attitude. That's the right fit. You've heard people say that, the right fit. That's a big part of that as well, to be able to work on our team. So that's really what I was saying with that. I hope that helps a little bit, Dominic. Thanks.
Thank you. And Vasantini would like to ask, how do we fit into something that is beyond our control? There is so much politics these days.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a great question, by the way, isn't it? That's a fantastic question. Yeah, I should probably ask you that, Keisha. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's okay. What's the name of the person again? Sorry.
Vasantini.
Vasantini. Hi there. How you doing? Thanks for the question. Wow, that's interesting. Let me think about that for a second. That's an interesting question. There are a lot of politics and so on out there. Yeah, for sure. The best thing I could say, and I don't know if it's going to help you because it's got me thinking too. I mean, just overall, the best anyone can do is, I'll say it this way: focus on what you could control. You've probably heard people say that. Focus on what you can control. What do we have control over? Well, we have control over our attitude. talked about that. We have control over how we carry ourselves, how we brand ourselves. We have control over how we present ourselves on LinkedIn or, other platforms. We have control over how we interact with someone if you're meeting them live, and there's more chance of doing that these days back into as we're transitioning out there. So many things that we have control over. Control, how we perform in our job. We have control over, perhaps preparing for the next role, whatever it might be. So the best thing I can say is to try to focus on what we have control over. There's many things we just can't control. Can we control? We use your word, politics or other things that go on. Really, what can you do about that? But what you can do, again, is focus on yourself. What do you have to offer? Your value, your goal. Stay focused as best you can, and try to sort of follow that road. That's the best way I could say it. I don't know if that helps. Does that help at all? Not sure. Hopefully it does. A little bit.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Perfect. Anybody else have any questions? We have a couple minutes left. Vishal. Vishal says, these were all really great insights. Somehow I feel they're harder for an introvert to practice than an extrovert, especially stepping out of the comfort zone. What are your thoughts about this?
Oh, we did great questions. Thank you so much. Vishal, thank you so much for the question. Wow. We should meet up and talk sometime. No, that's a introvert. Well, interesting. Now this makes it, wow. Okay, I'm going to get deep here, so bear with me, okay? Okay, you're seeing me here on the webinar, and this is, anyone that knows you, this is Marcello. This is Marcello. So I'm going to put my neck out here for a second. It may surprise you. Now I'm not. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't analyze the introvert extrovert stuff too much, and I'm not minimizing, even that type of labeling, shall we say? But if someone were to really analyze me as a personality, believe it or not, there's a lot of me you can say I'm half and half. I'm half introvert and half extrovert, believe it or not. Okay, because it depends on the situation. I'm more extrovert than introvert, and I think we all deep down have different versions of this. So, without me trying to analyze that too much. However, even if you see yourself as an introvert, I have met many people in my life, like Keisha has too as well, and it's interesting how I've heard that come out even sometimes with clients and having a conversation and say, well, I'm an introvert. I think it's hard for me to get out there and network, and it's hard for me to make contact with people and so on. And then I come back and say, well, yeah, but you came here today, so that takes a lot. That tells me that you're willing to take some steps to help yourself. And usually the response has been, well, that's true. So I guess what I'm really getting at is it might be more of a challenge. It may be because of your personality. And hey, listen, that's wonderful. However, you have the ability to still make the decision or make the choice to take the step or to get out there virtually like today, or live, shall we say. But again, it's a mindset. Whether you're an introvert or extrovert, you know what? It really gets down to, this is just my take, my opinion, by the way, okay? Based on experience and feedback and so on. Everything gets down to a choice. No matter what we're talking about, introvert, extrovert, blended, whatever the case may be, it's a choice you make for yourself. Again, we go back to, what are you seeing yourself that you want to achieve? What's your goal? What what is that? What's in your mind, shall we say? Your approach might be a little bit different from someone else, but it doesn't mean that that's going to hold you back. And the other thing I'm going to say here, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, is that if one focuses on, well, I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert or whatever, and I'm not minimizing that, but if that's what you focus on, that itself can hold you back. So you owe yourself the time to invest in yourself. So take that step one step at a time, and try to be clear in your mind of what do you see yourself doing next, and what makes sense to you, and take the steps that make sense for you, that are comfortable for you, but also don't be afraid to take that risk and step outside your comfort zone. I'd say many clients come through and claim that they're introverts, which is great and all that stuff, but because they're starting to talk to people, perhaps brainstorming, maybe they've had a chance to be referred to an event or whatever the case may be, through communicating, through meeting other people, through maybe joining social events on your own or maybe in your community, whatever it might be, those people have actually become more a little bit more on the extrovert side, or at least if they felt comfortable communicating, getting themselves out there. I know it's a long answer. I don't know if any of that helped at all, but hopefully helped a little bit.